it's Tiffany Loring Galloway, certified high performance coach, with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. Today, we have a special exclusive interview for you live. We are live. You can comment, you can chat. We're here. We see you. A dear friend of mine I met through Forbes Riley, Victoria Sanchez, is the author of this amazing book that is coming out that is dedicated to her son. It is called Superhuman Healing Frequencies. And that's what we're going to talk about today, as our theme is about resilient love. So today is a resilient mother's love story. Victoria, thank you so much for being here. Please tell us a little bit more about you as we get started today.
Thank you for having me. Wow, I'm so blessed to be here. I'm so blessed that we were both training with Forbes Riley, and she brought this connection together. So I want to lift her up. I lost my son, and it was the hardest thing that's ever happened in my life. He was the light of my eyes. He was the gem of my heart. And 4 years ago today, I had a knock at my door at approximately 1:30 in the morning to tell me that Austin Sanchez had passed away. And I said, well, I don't know an Austin Sanchez, but I just don't know, I don't, who is Austin Sanchez? And they said, no, Austin Sanchez, 8/19/1996. And I said, no, my son's middle name is Austin, but my son is Cody. So you have the wrong house. You have the wrong house, and you need to go away. And they didn't go away. They went back to their cars. There was a lot of them. And they went back to their cars, and they were radioing back and forth. I could hear the radios, and I was on my porch. I knew something was wrong. But in my heart of hearts, I didn't want to believe. And I sat on my cement steps out in the front, and I could hear the radios going back and forth. Cody Austin Sanchez, 8/19/1996. Yes, confirmed. I watched him walk back to me from the street, from his police car, and it was like a nightmare. It was like, no, you cannot be coming to talk to me. My son cannot be gone. He can't. But they said, I'm sorry. In fact, your son was shot and killed. And I said, no, they said he was shot. And I said, well, where is he? Take me to him. He said, you don't understand. He's no longer with us. And I said, that's why you have to take me to him. Because I need to be with him. He can't be alone if he was shot. My mind could not comprehend what was happening. I remember screaming so loud that my neighbor across the street, Brenda, she came, and I think I called her as well. I was in shock. She lost her brother too, so she knows about trauma. Thank God, because I had someone compassionate and warm and loving as I was melting on those concrete steps in front of my house. It was like I was dying. There was no proof he was dead. I was just being told he was gone. And when Brenda got here, I begged her to take me. We've got to go find him. The cops kept telling her, we can't go. It's COVID. You're not allowed to be around him. He was shot and killed. And you can't see him. I said, well, how am I going to know? I need to be with my son. No, Miss Sanchez, you cannot go to your son. And I told Brenda, we're going to go find him. She's a little rebel. So she put me in her little red truck and we went, I don't know, between 5 and 7 in the morning. We were driving. We didn't know where we were driving, but we were driving and she was there supporting me. And we were going to go find Cody. And I didn't find him that night. And I haven't found him since because it was true. He was shot and killed, and no more for me to hug, no more for me to travel with, to love, to nurture. He was gone. And
It sounds like your heart just broke in that moment. I'm a birth mom, and the only way I can even relate a little bit is the day after I put my oldest child up for adoption. Similar thing. I saw a 9-month-old child at church, and my child was 9 months old. And when I saw that child, I couldn't breathe. And I needed to get out of there. I just wanted to be alone. And so I had the people that were taking care of me take me to their home. And I remember being really, really still until I heard them close the door. And then I felt my heart just break. And I screamed, like you're talking about, with no one to hear, and fell to my knees in prayer and just had this comforting feeling that God knew and that God was going to take care of me. At what point, with all this trauma and all this searching and unimaginable grief, did you start that process of healing? When were you able to deal and face with that pain and the truth of what was really going on?
well, there's a 13 days of rite of passage. I'm very spiritual because I had my own death experience a year before Cody. And there's a 13-day rite of passage. And for that 13 days, Cody was in the morgue. He was alone and I couldn't get to him. That was probably the worst period in my life. I thought I was going crazy. I had to plan his funeral. I still haven't seen that he's dead. It's like, you tell me my kid is dead. Let me see him. Nope. No, so I planned a funeral and I did all this stuff and I kept seeing these visions and I knew that I had been on the other side and, God had showed me what my mission was and what I was supposed to do. And he had told me Cody was going to die. I knew this a year before. I wrote it down. I told my family. So I was prepared, but not prepared.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And so so in going through all that, that 13 days, I didn't even understand what the 13 days of rite of passage was. I grew up Catholic and Christian. I did study many other religions, Baptist and Jewish and all the different things that you dabble in. So I learned a lot about different spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. And so I never learned about the 13 days of rite of passage. And so during that 13 days of rite of passage, I changed. Every day I was tapping into Cody. I was tuning into something I didn't understand. He was integrating back into me. And there's a thing called yin yoga. And it's also like a reverse of yin yoga when your child dies. And I started learning yoga and meditation and prayer at a whole new level. And so in doing this and soul searching and trying to heal myself and trying to connect with my son as a birth mother, like, where is my son in this ether for this 13 days? And I went through everything. My mind, you lose yourself. You become disassociative with your heart and your brain. Everything becomes kerfumbled. And during that time, I was by myself. I really didn't have a support team. And so when that happened, I'm grateful now that I didn't have that support team, because if I would have, I wouldn't have found that inner strength. But because I didn't have someone to turn to and nurture me and support me and have empathy for me, I would hide. But I hid into something amazing. I delved into like Saguru with, meditation, breath work, Dr. Joe Dispenza, more breath work, how to reprogram your genetic makeup. I started studying and studying, and I was just, engulfed in this. And then I ended up getting into some universities and studying like higher education and evolution and your brain and how it works and the neurotransmitters. And I got certified in everything. And during this time, like, over this whole time, I think that that's what's helped me, is searching how to heal myself. And in doing that, I continue to journal and journal and journal. And as I'm journaling, my book started to evolve. I did this modality. This was a result. I was feeling like this, and I did this and did this modality, and this was a result. So this was healing for me. I always knew that Cody's story was never going to be buried with him. Today is 4 years. The deadline on his, I can never do anything. His results of the gavel being dropped are today. I had 4 years from the date of his shooting to change the outcome from accidental to homicide or something that I could investigate further. Now, today, it goes into the cold case. And I was not able to change it from accidental to anything other. I will always see it, and my family will always see it. This is an unjustified homicide, more like. This is not an accident. You are not military trained in the back of an 8-foot bed truck with 4 people, and all of you are shooting out the truck in different angles. And for you to turn a gun around, you're military trained and you're shooting over the tailgate. And for you to turn a gun around and point it point blank at someone's head that's bent over in the middle of the truck, how the court system can say that's an accident, I don't know. But this book is going to be the start, because this isn't the big story. This isn't the tell-all story. This was my healing journey from what happened. Because remember, if we don't put the mask on when the airplane's going down, we can't help anybody else, right?
Absolutely.
This was my mask. This was my healing modalities. This isn't about anybody else. This is about a little bit about my journey and what's happened, my death experience, Cody's death experience, and a little bit about, the trauma. But it's more about what things I did to heal, how I reached out, and how this can help other people. And
So we
not
talked about breathing, meditation, journaling. Those are ones people are probably more familiar with. Can you share a few more exclusive ones to the book that you learned along the way?
So when I had a flesh-eating bacteria, I had the center of my nose eaten out. So I do not have ability to breathe left and right brain like a normal person would. So it's called pranayama breathing. I learned this at an ashram with a guru. My brain functions both sides. I became like superhuman. Like, my brain left and right will give you messages from both sides at the same time. So it overwhelms people because I have no separation to separate my left brain breathing and my right brain. So there is a 6-minute pranayama breathing. You start inhaling. So you would go like this. You would put your thumb over your left nostril or your right nostril. You would inhale through your left nostril and cover your left, and exhale. You inhale, exhale. So that's pranayama, and that gets your brain waves, your neurotransmitters, to bridge a gap that normally doesn't get bridged. So there's breathing techniques, but then there's certain finessed breathing techniques.
And the reason that works is it's like EMDR work. You're trying to connect the brain and rewire it differently. So anything you can do that crosses over and lets the two brains work together. And music is another one, is a form of healing. So that's a great one. You found that one very effective. What was another one?
I like to do the binary beats and the solfeggio tones. The somatic breathing, the somatic tones for calming the nervous system. I've learned hypnosis, EFT tapping, emotional frequency tapping. Let's see, the Kundalini whole chakra opening system That was very, very helpful for me. Standing outside or going outside in the morning and hanging off of a tree for
Mm.
15 minutes. It stretches your rib cage up and gives you a lot more oxygen in your body, and it starts your day off where you're more productive and energized and with less stress.
So are these all included in the book? Are all the techniques you used?
Touches of everything, yeah. And then I'll have where you can train with me, or you can do webinars and workshops with me where I will go into depth on them. Sounding bowls, that's another thing that I learned. Learning the different sound frequency for the sound bridge for each chakra, going up
Mm.
and down your system. So the cross is for a reason. The cross isn't just to look at like Jesus hanging on it, but the cross is also part of our chakra system. So
Mm.
balancing ourselves out left and right brain breathing and breathing up and down, that lets the fluid come from the bottom of our tailbone up through our spine all the way up to our brain. And then it starts activating and decalcifying our pineal gland so that we can think clear and we can learn quicker.
It's a really great Eastern medicine has known this probably more than we have, and a blend of both Western and Eastern sounds like what you were doing, but more on the Eastern side. How much of it was brand new to you and surprised you?
Surprising, I think that probably training with the guru. The way he articulated everything and showed me how to plug in everything made so much sense. It was like talking to a fourth grader, or an 8-year-old. You could understand it. And I love the Eastern philosophy behind that. Um, Now going back to childhood, I was a breeder of quarter horses, so I knew a lot about epigenetics. I could design a horse and breed for color, personality, genetic makeup. So that I think I didn't understand it back then like I do now, but it definitely helped with my healing process because I did bring the epigenetics into it. I brought the science into it. I brought the spirituality into it and I could plug it all in. And that's where my logo, Bridging the Gap, comes. This the science and the spirit and putting it all together.
Part of what you talked about really interests me because I know even words affect us at a cellular level. There was a
Mm,
study done where they put words on a jar, and the words that were positive, when they put under a microscope, looked beautiful, like snowflakes and very organized. But when they did negative words, they were chaotic, sporadic, not very nice to look at. And so the work that we do that you're speaking of is really inner work. Everything from the thoughts we're thinking about trauma or anything that triggers us and how we change that dialogue to something positive. Because our initial reaction with trauma, for those that haven't been through it, whatever the person does, whether they scream, they go canatotic, they have a way of coping, it's their body's response. It actually is a natural response. And unless you've been through something like that or that much pain or that much grief, it may be very uncomfortable for you. And just understand that that is the biological part of it. Then, like Victoria, you get to choose, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do to change it? What am I going to do to feel better? But it's something that nobody else can really do for you. And I think you really spoke to that, Victoria, that there's just the work you have to do, the inner work to heal that
mm,
pain and to face it and to decide, are you going to make your mess your message? Are you going to bring meaning to it? Are you going to honor someone that passed as part of that trauma or that grief, whether that's a loss of a child or loss of a loved one or loss of a dream or a health issue? We all have these deep, deep things that happen, and it's part of our humanity. And I love that you decided to take that path of doing the inner work. And now you want to give back. You want to serve. You want to be able to help others who've experienced that pain and help take it away sooner and faster by bridging that gap.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's how this book all came about. And I was doing so well when I wrote the book. I got into my superhuman frequencies. I got into my theta wave, brainwave, and wrote the book in one night. And then it's been sitting for about a year, a little over a year. And I went I went back to try to mend some family issues because I didn't want to leave anyone in my family unhealed. I wanted them to be able to move forward no matter what. And so I have taken the last 16 months out of my life to go back and work on a relationship, but it didn't work out. So had to move past that now. But in doing that, it was healing to me because I fell the last 16 months of trying to give too much of myself instead of staying in that zone of healing myself. And so in doing that, I fell again and I got out of alignment. And then I said, we've got to launch this book. And so Amy, she works tirelessly behind the scenes, and she said, okay, let's do this. And we went ahead and launched the book. In a week, we had it out complete. And that was so healing to me and to her because as we're reading it, we're having to edit and read, edit and read. And I'm like, oh, I have not been doing some of these practices. And so
Accountability there. You got to practice what you preach. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was healing because it brought me back into alignment and it brought Amy back into alignment. And here we are just, checking this book out and just here it is. And so I'm so grateful to Amy and Joe, part of my dream team. This morning they were called Victoria's Angels, like Charlie's Angels.
Yes.
They're part of my dream team.
And they're here with us today. So let me bring them up and they can join us here. We have Amy and Joe. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to unmute everyone so you're ready to go. Oh, I can unmute one at a time. Okay, there we go. All right. Amy, thank you so much. You guys got this book out in a week. Please tell me how that miraculously happened.
I think it was like close to 18-hour days sometimes.
Oh.
So, yeah, but I mean, working with Victoria is so inspirational. I was glad to play whatever part I could in making her dream happen.
Because she had already had all those journals in place and the practices, was it more like just going back and tweaking the message a little bit? Did it feel like it was a little guided maybe and inspired in how it flowed? Or?
Well, I mean, there was editing, spelling, grammar, spacing more than anything. Helping her find some pictures that really brought forth her message because, I mean, it was her baby. I just helped deliver it.
And Amy is being very, very humble. But, I think especially to the audience out there and to everybody here as women, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we have a lot of great ideas in this world. And it's when you find those partners who can help you actualize that. And so I just want to, and I already warned Amy that I will do this at every platform, is that she kept, like you said before, Tiffany, the accountability. She kept Victoria honest. The fact that they did it in a week of something that had been sitting around waiting to be shared. I just can't wait to hear all the stories of the people who are reading it and feeling that they get their seen, that they're not alone in the grief and the trauma, that the tools that are out there are very, very accessible. And, again, Amy, nothing happens without having that, the flow and having somebody be able to manifest that. And so I cannot shout you out enough. And thank you, because I love what Victoria does. One thing that we all have in common is that we know Forbes Riley. We came together in a lot of her trainings, and that's also where we met Amy. So just being able to even share from a business side, an entrepreneurial side, that foundation, right? Having someone who understands what direction you're headed in, I think has a lot of power to make this move forward.
And it's interesting jumping into the evolution of your story at this point for me, because I just got a little piece in the very beginning and kind of knew what you were up to. So now to see what has blossomed and what is flourishing from your story being developed and your truth being shared is really quite inspiring. And I hope will help others to feel inspired to share their stories and to understand that this book is all heart. It is meant to serve. And in doing so, not only is she sharing her message, but she's honoring her son, Cody. And I think that makes her a real resilient mother, and why I was so pleased that she decided to come on the podcast today to share this with our audience. our audience is a lot of mompreneurs, and we've had mothers on here with grief and different subjects and infertility, loss, and different things. And so the idea here is to share other stories, to let people know they're not alone as moms, that you can be whatever version of a resilient mom you want to be. And you get to raise the next resilient generation, or even honor those that were a part of you. They're always your child. They're always with you. I had another guest on recently who actually told me that even if you have a miscarriage, the cells of your child that are still in you heal you. So your children are always with you. And I think that brings a lot of peace and a lot of comfort as well to many. But that loss, that grief, that pain that you shared with us was so raw, Victoria. Thank you for being so vulnerable and so real, because somebody else needs to know that it wasn't weird how they reacted to their grief or their trauma, and that their path is unique and they get to decide what it is. But there are tools out there, and this book is one of them.
Thank you. And I want to use this book as not just that the law, put the gavel down and said, today's the last day that you get to have justice for your son, because I get to say when it's the last day. And this book is going to lead into other things that is going to make sure that his name is never forgotten and that he does see his justice in a loving way, in a loving way.
I want to know a little bit about Cody. I don't know Cody. I know you. I want to know Cody. Tell me a little bit about Cody so I can connect with who he was and who he is now.
He was the most incredible person I've ever met in my life. Cody from birth. He was never a problem, even in my womb. That little boy, he just was full of love. When I wanted to have him, I poured every ounce of love I had in every cell in my being into that little boy. I dreamed of him every night when I was carrying him. I mean, there was no way this little boy wasn't going to come out in anything less than just a divine soul. I poured everything into him. And he was truly an angel. Everything he ever done, he did it with his soul. When I got hurt with my horse, he came and he got the stallion away from me, 9 years old, goes and gets my SUV. I have a broken back, gets my SUV, and he's going to put me in my SUV and drive me to the hospital at 9 years old. But he's a farm boy. He knows how to drive tractors. He knows how to what's wrong with me driving you to the hospital, Mom? Well, son, you don't have a license. I think we better call an ambulance. This could be a problem. I can do it, Mom. Not legally, son. Not legally.
What a special child it sounds like he was. And the connection that you two had, that he would want to take care of his mom in that way at 9 years old. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Well, we have your after party here in just a little bit. So I want to make sure to direct people to that. So if you want to continue this conversation and you want to hear more from Victoria and Amy and Joe and others that are going to be celebrating this momentous occasion of the 4-year anniversary, please join the link in the comments or join the link below, and you'll be able to transfer over to that event that is going on here in about 1 minute. And I just want to honor you and thank you all for being here and sharing this with me on the Resilient Mother podcast. Remember, God gave you your child for a reason, and that means that he knew you could handle it. I believe in you, believe in yourself. God bless, and we'll see you next time on the Resilient Mother podcast.